On this episode, we're going to launch from this spring and we're going to paddle up Econfina Creek to check out a little lesser known spring named Palm Spring, as well as a few other springs along the way. And if you've seen some of our other videos, this one's going to be a little less polished. Raw exploration of a spring that's hard to get to. To my left is a small third magnitude spring discharged directly into the spring run. I'm going to follow this spring run until it runs into Econfina Creek. During certain seasons, you can find huge tadpoles, I assume from bullfrogs, in this little nook. This is where the spring run meets Econfina Creek. During times of low rainfall, Econfina Creek can be quite clear. Not quite as clear as the springs, but not too bad. Just have to avoid more things on the bottom because of the shallow water. Here you can see some of the karst geology of Econfina Creek. Certain bends in the creek are eroded over time, revealing the limestone beneath the topsoil. You can also see how the currents have eroded a deep channel along that bank. Areas like this may be discharging spring water. This portion of the creek is not traveled as much, so there's a few obstacles you have to get by. See if you can do the limbo under this. Cool, when the water is clear like this, you can see a lot of fish in the creek. You can also see areas of karst formation like this. Here in Florida, we don't usually see big rocks, so it's a little bit fascinating for us natives. Upstream, kind of get a lay of the land out here. Know where the tree stumps are and stuff. First stop here is a third magnitude spring known as Bathtub Spring. Lots of deer tracks, seems to be a popular watering hole for wildlife. See a little channel where the water trickles into the creek. It's not a super impressive spring. In addition to bathtub, there's a small spring run that's made up of cold, clear water. It's definitely from a spring. Can I get to it? I'm not sure. I grew up exploring the swamps, forests, and beaches of the Florida Panhandle. I've completed land navigation courses with the U.S. Marine Corps in North Carolina and with a Marine Reconnaissance Unit in the jungles of Central America. So I have fun in places like this until I run into briars. Looks like it's going to be a little too thick to get back in there, so we're going to cancel that reconnaissance. Move on to Palm Spring. I literally had to crawl through here. Made it back to the paddleboard. Now it's time to cool off a little bit. Time is ticking. I have to get a kid from school pretty soon, so I better speed it up. There's possibly another little spring that's trickling into the creek right here. I've yet to explore it. There's a lot of shrubbery to get through. Old cypress tree growing in the middle of the creek. finally arrive at Palm Springs Spring Run. There's a little waterfall trickling out of there. So I'm going to climb through this spring run and see if I can reach the actual spring heads. This bush or somewhere near it might have a nest of some kind of stinging insect. You can hear them buzzing around, so I'm not sure if I'm going to have to cancel this trip. As I mentioned before, in the Marine Corps we are taught to adapt and overcome. So I'm going to take the land route around the bush with stinging insects and see if I can make it to this spring. Do have to watch for snakes in this undergrowth. There it is, the spring head for Palm Springs. It's not the most beautiful spring in Florida. It has some debris, most likely from Hurricane Michael, and no maintenance. I left my mask back at the paddleboard like an idiot, but I'm still going to get in the water and film this. Palm Springs is listed as a third magnitude spring. There are actually two different springs. You're looking at spring number 2. There's an old palm tree at the bottom. Maybe that's why it gets its name, Palm Springs. Later I'd come back and discover their main vents for Palm Spring number 2 is over to the left. With such a tight space, it was easily silted out, so it's time to move back to Palm Spring number 1. It wasn't easy navigating the spring with all the debris and a very soft bottom. Well, Palm Springs. Now it's time to make it back across the land without getting bit by a rattlesnake or picking up ticks. So right back into the spring run. Palm Springs number 1 is right to my left. It's kind of hidden under trees and roots. Down to about 30 minutes before I had to be back and on my way to get the kid. It's time to head down the creek. Taking another look at this area of karst geology, it sure appears that there may be some spring water seeping out there. water is mostly brownish, but if you look towards the rock over there, you can see a greenish tint to the water. That could be spring water. As I approached the spring run for an undisclosed spring, I had so much speed coming down the creek that I dug a fin right here in the shallows. No time to dwell on my kook moment. I had to push on to beat the clock. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We have season 2 and so many more adventures coming soon.